So, welcome to another episode of the Talking Balls podcast, the weekly podcast that comes out every Wednesday, talking about snooker. I'm your host, Michael Wright, and I'm going to welcome back my co-host because Lee's back from his travels.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's great to be back, and it's great to be speaking to Lee Walker tonight.
So it's one Lee to another. So as I say, our special guest this evening, it's a Tuesday night. Our special guest is Lee Walker. So hiya, Lee.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very good. We're well. Are we going to talk over each other? Lee Mac, I'm going to call you Mac. I'll tell you what, I'll call you Mac for the purpose of this one today, Lee.
Well, that's why I just had that awkward silence there, because I was very conscious not to talk over you, Michael. So I was giving you the ground there.
It's almost like we rehearsed these, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, well, look, Lee Walker, we've let people know we were going to record with you, and during the episode we'll talk a little bit about some of the questions that have come in, and obviously, you know, people there's certainly a fondness that comes across actually in some of the questions, and obviously with the time you've been on the scene, you're a well-known figure in the sport, so I think there's a lot to cover there. But what might be interesting is just to get your thoughts to kick us off, really. Just how the season's going so far, if you wouldn't mind. Just take us through from the kind of Championship League up, how you feel it's been going.
Yes, it started okay. I won. I think I finished. I didn't play very well in the Championship League, but I managed to finish third in the group, so at least I took something away from it. I got to the last 32 in the British Open. Was a little bit disappointed to lose when I did, because I was playing quite well. But the best of fives are sort of, you know, I think lots of players are moaning about the best of fives, but you know, for the players I think that are ranked lower down the rankings, you know, I think a tournament like that is very, very good, because you know it's. You know, you don't want to play the likes of, you know, the top boys. But if you're going to play them, I'd certainly rather play them a best of 5 than I would play them a best of 19. That's for sure. So it definitely, you know, although it is a bit cutthroat, and you can, you know, the standard of play is so high now that, you know, you could play a best of 5 and, you know, half an hour later you could be back in the car. But you know, I think for the lower ranked players, I think it's a really good tournament. So won a couple of matches in that, and then. Unfortunately lost in the qualifier for the English Open, but I qualified, won my first match in the Irish Open, and I've qualified for the Scottish Open. So it's obviously last season I didn't do very well at all. So I think I've already won more matches this season than I did in the entire total of last season. So from that point of view, yes, it's a decent start.
Well, what do you put that down to then, Lee? Can you look back at last year and see why maybe the form just wasn't there at all? We've had some people talk about, you know, COVID and not playing in front of any crowd, and you know, the whole strangeness of playing at the same venue a lot as well. I mean, how do you reflect on that in terms of the last season?
Well, obviously it wasn't ideal, but I think, you know, if you kind of, it's the same type of, you know, people have got good memories about certain venues that they do well in, and when they go back to that venue they like going back. And obviously virtually every tournament was played in Milton Keynes, so obviously I was one of the ones who weren't doing very well, and it was kind of, you know, when you're halfway up the motorway on your way to Milton Keynes, is like, oh, getting this feeling again of here we go again. And but unfortunately for me, I had some very, very tough draws. I played some okay matches, but just found players that were playing a little bit better than me, unfortunately. And you know, it's you know, when the draws, the way they're doing this system at the moment, when the draws do go against you a little bit, you know, it can be very, very tough. You can play some really good matches and still get beat. And you know, that's what I was finding. I was finding that I was playing. I won't say I was playing great, but I was playing okay. But I was just playing players that were playing, you know, I played, I think I had kind of draws like Kyron Wilson, and then I had Zhao Xing Tong, who just played some of the best snooker I've ever seen. And then I had Tom Ford, and, you know, they were, you know, all top 32, top 16 players. And I was just like, kind of losing 5-3, 4-2, and you know, but you're still out first round. So so yeah, it was a little bit disappointing, but you know, I tried to start this season a little bit, you know, practice a little bit harder in the off season and tried to start it a bit quicker. And yeah, it has worked a bit. I've been working with Noel Flannery quite a bit, who I know you've had on as well, and found the things that he's doing very, very helpful. So so yeah, hopefully I can carry it on.
You must finally, you know, like back in the day, the bottom of the rankings, they wouldn't be as strong as what the bottom of the rankings is now. You know, the strength and depth of the tour is just through the roof, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously been on been on and off the tour now for a long time, and you know, the strength in depth now is unbelievable. To be perfectly honest, you know, I've heard people who played maybe 15 years ago say, "Oh, the standard was much better when I was playing." Well, I can assure you, it's not. You know, the standard now, the guys that are ranked, you know, from, you know, obviously the top 32 is always good, but the guys that are ranked from 40 down, even down to like 110, you know, and some of the players that are not even on the tour, to be quite honest. You know, I played James Cale in the English qualifiers, you know, and you know, his long pot and safety play exceptional, you know, and he's not even you know, he's not on the tour. So the strength in depth at the moment is yeah, it's way higher than it's ever been, lower down the rankings. There's no doubt about that.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I mean, that's always a discussion, isn't it, about whether it was better in the so-called olden days. But is that maybe more because there was that group of high-profile players that were well-known, big personalities, and you didn't hear so much, did you, about the fringe players? But as you say, and as you know, as I'm going to say Mac again, so as Mac would say, you know, there's a little bit there around. You look far up on the rankings, and everybody's capable of a. I mean, Techai got a 147 the other day. We know what he can do, but he's obviously such an attacking player. But you've got players all down the order who can put the breaks away. It just seems as if they've all got the tools to do it. It's just on the day, and it's maybe that mental toughness to see it through consistently, isn't it? But everybody in there just seems capable of taking frames off each other and being very competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a surprise anymore. I think if you know, the top 16. The top 16 has always been strong. You know, the top 16 was strong, you know, 15, 20 years ago. It was, you know, when you look back 20 years ago, your top 16, you had Mark Williams probably around at his best, John Higgins at his best, Ronnie O'Sullivan, you know, three of the greatest players there's ever been. So, you know, and you had all these other great players that you could mention as well. So the top 16 is strong now. The top 16 was strong 20 years ago, you know, but where there is definitely a difference is lower down the rankings. You know, you sort of, if you went back about 20 years ago, and I know they've kind of shortened up the matches quite a bit, which obviously helps the lower ranked players, like I said before. But I don't think, you know, if somebody ranked 80 now turns over a top 5 player, it's not really. Obviously, you'd fancy the top 5 player to win, obviously, because they're the best players. But it's not sort of the shock it was 15, 20 years ago. You know, in fact, I'd probably say that there aren't any shocks really. You know, because everybody is capable of playing so well, and on their day, you know, everyone can beat anyone else at the moment.
But a lot of the players as well, Lee, they're getting a lot more exposure, the players down the rankings, because with an open draw, they could be playing on TV against Ronnie or Higgins, one of the top guys. So there's sort of more opportunities for the lower ranked players now. Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of, it's kind of a double-edged sword, that one, isn't it? You know what I mean? You want to play on the TV, but also you don't want to be drawing Ronnie and John Higgins, Mark Williams first round. That's for sure. You know, I just do think at the moment the way that they're doing it, you know, some of the young players are having some really, really tough draws, you know, tournament after tournament, and I always kind of said, well, you know, over 2 years, stick in there, it'll even itself out. But sometimes it doesn't, you know. You know, I was looking actually at not a young player, but you know, I was looking at Robert Milkins's draws the other day, and wow, it's just virtually every tournament he's got a top player. It's you know, and you're thinking, you know, you're kind of thinking, well, like I said, it'll even itself out. I mean, Rob is a great player, and he's won quite a few of those matches, but you know, you still don't need to be drawing all these top players at first round every. You know, it does make a difference, and it can, you know, if you're a young player coming on tour for the first time, you know, I know it's all right to say, oh well, if you're good enough, you'll come through, but you know, everybody takes a little bit of time to come through, and I think it can be, you know, if you're getting these players and you know you're getting hammered every match, I think it can get demoralizing. You know, I don't really think it's right, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, I remember the episode we had with Joe Perry. He said similar. I think his take on it was that, I seem to have gone off the screen. I think his take on it was that, you know, there was this issue around players didn't have to earn the right to play the top players. It was almost that bit around they're in the first round against a top player. They haven't had to build up to get there. So that aspiration of playing against one of the top guys in the sport, they were getting that without earning it. And I don't think he meant it in a harsh way, but it sounded as if to say, you know, there's no build up. And it's almost like you're saying that bit around almost building up and finding your level all the way through and then getting to play the top guys when you're somewhere in their orbit almost.
Yeah, I mean, I read most of the interview that Joe did, and I got to be fair, with most of the things that he said, I totally agree with him. You know, I think that sort of when they had the other, I mean, look, I packed in playing sort of 2007-ish, and I didn't start playing again until about 2013, I think it was, and the only reason that I started back playing it was because of what the way Barry Earn turned it around, you know, because you know I remember playing one season, I can't remember what year it was, but there were 6 tournaments, you know, and you went to sort of the qualifiers in August, and you played maybe 2 or 3 of them. That was like a 30-year season gone, you know. So it has come a long way since then, you know. I think, you know, when we were out of COVID times and we had the China tournaments, we were talking maybe up towards 16 tournaments, I think, you know, which was brilliant. But I do think, you know, like kind of if you're a young player and you're coming in, you know, you're going to take a little bit of time because the players are so good now, you know, and it is a different level. And I think, you know, you need a little bit of time. If you were playing sort of, if it was the old system, the tiered system, you'd be playing someone who was ranked around where you are. And then if you did manage to win that game and then you managed to get through the next phase as well, by the time you came up against then your John Higgins or your Sean Murphy or somebody like this, you'd have already won 3 matches and you'd have already had £3,000 or £4,000 in the bank. Now all of a sudden coming up and playing these guys now, it's a little bit different, because when you're playing them and you're going into the tournament, you're live on the television, it's the first match. If you lose, you get nothing. That's not a nice pressure to play under. If you're playing these guys and you know you're already on £3,000 or £4,000, now it's a little bit easier. And you know, I think that is a much better way for the young players to sort of, you know, get their grounding in the game and not have to play, you know, your top 8 players and your top 16 and 32 players first round of all these tournaments.
And does that sort of protect the top 16, top 32 a little bit too much, or would you feel?
Yeah, maybe, but you know, I mean, it's kind of they've kind of turned around and said, you know, it's a total level playing field, and every year they change that. You know, now we've got the top 16 are seeded through to the venue of the 4 nations tournaments. You know, so it's like they go in back that way slightly, but they, you know, so it's not a level playing field. You know, whether when they say, oh, you know, it's a level playing field, it isn't really, is it? You know, you know, it's not. So, you know, people say, oh, well, you've got the same chances as earning the same amount as Judd Trump. Well, no, I haven't really, have I? Let's be, you know, if we're being perfectly honest about it, no, I haven't. You know, and it just seems to me at the moment that it's just gone. You know, it's a little bit. I think, you know, and you know, again for the young players, you know, if you were coming and you getting beat and losing all these matches is bad enough, and then to not get it, and then for it to cost you money as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's really, really harsh. You know, really, really harsh. You know, so I see. I've been to Q school. I played in Q school myself 3 times, and I've been coaching there now 3 or 4 times as well. And most of the people that play there think that if they get through Q school, they've done it.
Yeah.
And that's just the start of it. You know, getting through Q school is the beginning of it. You know, it's not you. Once you get through Q school, you haven't done anything. You know, you've done brilliant. Don't get me wrong, because it's very, very difficult to get through. I'm not saying it's not a great achievement or anything like that, because it's very, very tough to get through Q school. But when you look at it, a sense of being a professional snooker player, that's just the start. You know, and I think so many of these people are coming through, and then it's like when they get onto the tour then and they start playing it, and it's like, oh wow, I didn't realize it was like this.
Yeah,
you know, and you know, if they just had, you know, if you were getting beat but you were like covering your expenses at least, you know, I think it to be put on to get onto the tour, it's everybody that's got on there, and especially if you've got through Q school, it's a great achievement. So to then go on the tour then and it maybe cost you a few £1,000 as well. You know, it's bad enough not making any money, but for it to cost you money, I think is too harsh in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on well, everybody, the first round matches. Do you think the guys that have came through Q school, do you think they're sort of ultimately they will be dropping off after the 2 years, or would you be very surprised to see any of them stay on?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult, isn't it? I mean, I think you'll get a few. Certainly there will be. I'm not sure whether if it's 4 or 8 this year that stay on through the 1 year list. So obviously you would have a chance of staying on through that, but to come in and you know, there isn't many people, especially that come in through Q school, that get straight into the top 64. I mean, it's very, very difficult to do that, you know. And you know, I've kind of since I've come back playing, I think this is my 8th year now since I come back, and you know, the one in the 2 seasons, I think I got up to 75 grand. I think in the 2 combined seasons, and that still wasn't enough to get in the 64. And then the next season, I started from scratch again. You know, so it's it's kind of that you know, when you do that, and then sort of all your hard work, then you're happy that you've got a 2-year card. Obviously, again, because I think I finished in the top 8. But you are ultimately, again, the next season, then you're starting on 0 again. So it's you know, it's tough. Yeah, it's very tough. But like I said, you know, it still is. You know, if ultimately, you know, if you are good enough, you ultimately will come through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose we talked earlier, didn't we? Almost as part of that, about, you know, not about the shocks, and maybe it's not a shock so much now when a lower ranked player wins. I guess the closest we've had to any of that, like, I'm just thinking about last year, I guess it was probably Jordan Brown winning the tournament, beating Ronnie O'Sullivan in the final. That's perhaps the closest, really, isn't it, for a little while, really? And then you get the great stories about how he was working in the petrol station just this time ago, and then he's come back, and it's I suppose it's good to see that you can get to that level from wherever you are. I mean, and you've obviously got a wave of players now coming through, young players, and we've certainly, when we talked to Jason Ferguson, he was quite excited about the wave of Chinese players coming into the sport. You've already mentioned one yourself who you played and was very impressed with. So do you see, I mean, do you see that there is almost a wave of younger players ready to replace I'm not going to say the old guard, but you know what I'm trying to say. Can you see that kind of wave coming through?
I think, I think when you're looking at the Chinese players, there are quite a few of them that are, I mean, I will say that I've always been impressed with Yan Bingtao. I've always been impressed with Zhao Xingtong. I played him in the World Amateur Championship and Yulong as well. Those three, you can't fail to be impressed by them. But I think, Zhao Xingtong is without a doubt one of the most talented players I've ever seen. He's just, the way he played. I mean, I played him when I was saying one of those matches last season. He was 4-0 up at the interval, and he'd made 4 80+ breaks to be 4-0 up, and it was just like, well, it looked like, well, I normally do this, this is nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
And then I managed to get it back to 4-3 and thought, I got a chance here. And he potted a long red in the next rim at 127. So it's like 4 80+ breaks and 120. And it was, and the match he played the other day, I think he done even better than that. I think he had 4 tons, was it? I mean, it's just
4 tons in the 80, I think.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, I mean, it's just, he is so talented that it's frightening. Because he makes it all look so easy. I mean, it just looks, you say Ronnie makes it, obviously. All your top players make it look effortless, but he's just got this style. I mean, he could be anything, to be perfectly honest. I think
I've watched him. Sorry, Lee. I've watched him for a couple of years myself, coming through, and I'm just expecting him to explode sometime in the near future. As you say, he's that good. Yeah.
I think if he talk a lot about when I'm coaching, talk a lot about kind of game management, and I think once he gets that side of it, there could be no stopping him, because he is, like I said, talent-wise, he's just incredible. Incredible to watch, and even when you sat there in your seat and you're taking an absolute pummeling, you're looking at him and thinking, God, this guy's good.
There's a lot to admire.
Yeah, he's but I mean, there are other ones as well, and but unfortunately, like I said, I do a lot of coaching myself, and we talked about Dylan Emery, who's just got a 2-year card, and unfortunately, the Welsh tournaments at the moment when I used to play junior tournaments, it was maybe 30-40 entries in an under 16 event. At the moment, they get in 7 and 8 entries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's disappointing. Very. Welsh snooker was always regarded as, right up there. So that's quite disappointing to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it was always kind of, before me, you kind of had your likes of, there was always top Welsh professionals, and then there was myself, there was Mark Williams, Matthew Stevens, and then there was Ryan Day, and then Michael White, Ian Priest, Jamie Jones. So all these players that have gone either on to top 32 or win tournaments and things like that. And we've had since then we kind of had Daniel Wells, Dwayne Jones, Jamie Clark, but it's kind of slowing down a little bit. I mean, we, apart from Jackson Page, I think in the last few years as a new Welsh pro, we haven't. Jackson is about the only one we've had, and now we've got Dylan. I think it's there's the one lad that I coach, Liam Davis. He's only 15. You'd have probably seen him in. He's just been in Portugal with you. Yeah. But he's only 15, so it might be a couple of years before, he's on the pro tour, but that's we've got a 1 or 2 others, but where it was before, there was, you could reel off 6 or 7 names that would have maybe a chance of being a professional. It's not quite like that now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think that's quite. I think it's sort of all the nations are struggling.
I think so.
I know it's the same in Scotland. You know, we've got a young guy called Liam Graham. He's Stephen Wardroper, although young. You know, their time might come. Sam Mackay, but you know, you sort of go through a spell that, given what it was, and given the champions were produced and the Welsh champions, it just seems to be lacking a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, you know, the internet and the PlayStations and all these different things have got a lot to do with that as well. And there's so many other things that they want to do, and it's you know, the interest of youngsters in snooker now, certainly in Wales. I mean, I'm not quite sure what it's like in England, but yeah, in Wales it's nothing like it used to be, which is a real shame.
Yeah, I think it's like what you say. Everything's sort of geared towards the house now. You know, you're not getting youngsters out playing football as much. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it's certainly on the slide, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, going back probably about, it would have been probably 10 years ago. I actually was doing a junior club, and I said to the boys in the junior club, I said, right, we're going to have a tournament now, and whoever wins the tournament, I'm going to sponsor you for the following year. So we did the tournament, and one of the boys won it. So I mean, it wasn't a massive amount of money, but I paid his entries to play in all the Welsh tournaments then the following year, which would have been the under-14s tournaments, and he ended up qualifying to play for Wales.
Oh wow!
So it was like, you know, brilliant. You know, when I was young, that was like such a massive thing to represent your country. And you know, the date of the tournament come about, and then he come back, and he was at the junior club the following week. And I said, oh, how did it go playing for Wales? Oh, he said, I didn't go. I said, you didn't go? He said, no. He said, the trip was going to cost sort of 200 quid, he said. So I had a choice, he said, of either an Xbox or going to play for Wales. He said,
no.
So I chose the Xbox.
Oh no!
Yeah, yeah. So
that's a kick in the teeth.
So that was my last time I did a tournament to sponsor anyone to play in the Welsh tournament. Yeah.
Wow, what an honour that would have been.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you kind of, I assume it's the same in Scotland as well. You know, when you qualify to play for Wales, you get a Welsh waistcoat, and then that's yours to keep then. So it's like, you know, it's like a cap at rugby, or same type of thing. So it was like, when I was young, that was like, when you had that Welsh waistcoat, that was like, oh, you know, fantastic. But obviously not as good as an Xbox though. So.
And Lee, and you're talking about the home internationals, Liam playing for Wales and stuff. The standard at the home internationals back when you were playing, it must have been through the roof. The guys that were in the other teams.
Yeah, well, I remember playing in Belfast, and it was a 4-man team. It was myself, Matthew Stevens, and Mark Williams for Wales.
Wow.
Jamie Burnett and John Higgins were part of the Scotland team, and Steve Lee and Ronnie O'Sullivan were part of the English team.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing teams, junior teams. I think that year anyway, that they actually the junior players are so good that they drafted Ronnie and Steve Lee in to play in the senior team as well, and then it came to the deciding frame in the home international seniors, and Wales drafted Mark Williams in to play. He hadn't played any matches, and they drafted Mark in, and he won the tournament from him.
Wow, just so much choice.
Yeah. So I mean, the standard then, junior wise, was insane.
And
insanely
sort of
good.
Great to cut your teeth on that sort of standards. That must have brought your game on, you know, compared to maybe what it's like. Obviously, very talented people playing home internationals now, but you know, I mean, those guys, I mean, they're different levels. So it must have been fantastic for the likes of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that was obviously, you go into I played all the junior tournaments in Wales. You'd always come up against either Mark or Matthew in the final. And then you obviously didn't come up against John because, you know, it was Scotland's a little bit far away, but came up against Ronnie in a few finals of tournaments. I actually played him, quite a funny story. I played him in a final of an under-16 tournament. The final was on tables downstairs, and there was a lady running the tournament, and she said, "Oh, if you go down now," she said, "and you get the tournament started, and I'll be down in about 15 minutes to referee the final." She said, "Yeah, okay." So we went down, and 20 minutes later, she's coming down, and I got my cue case on the table. And she goes, "You know, what are you doing, Lee? I told you to start this 20 minutes ago." I said, "It's finished."
Oh no! Oh no!
He beat me 3-0 in under 20 minutes, and I potted 3 balls.
Oh
Wow!
Yeah,
incredible standard.
So he was also very early on then.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean Mark as well. You know, I mean he didn't lose a junior tournament for something like 3 years, I don't think, or something in Wales, you know. And then, as I always remind him, I beat him in the final of the Welsh Youth then, as I always remind him. So
every dog has their day.
It's the only time I've ever beaten him, so I got to get it in.
Well, one of the guys on Twitter, when we asked about, you know, any questions, there's a guy who calls himself Phil Robinson, eligible bachelor. He's been on before. Right. And he asked if you had any favourite stories about Mark Williams.
Yeah. Yes, but, not many that I can share on you, really, but yeah. But yeah, we obviously we've been friends since we were how old? About 14 years of age. We only live 5 miles from each other, and you know, our families are friends as well. So yeah, we get on very well together.
That must have been fantastic to share that moment when he was picking up the World Championship trophy.
Yeah, that was special. Yeah, that was very special. I mean, you know, the way he played kind of all that season, and I was with him at quite a few of those tournaments. I was with him in Ireland. I was with him in Germany, and then to be with him all the way through the World Championship. You know, the way he played. And John as well. I mean, you know, I went to the party afterwards. You know, I mean, that's one of the best matches I think I've ever seen. You know, and I said to John afterwards. You know, I get on quite well with John. I said, "Look, I know you're going to be gutted, but I just wanted to say that was one of the best matches I've ever seen." You know, the way he kept clearing up all the time, and you know, to have that done to you, and then for Mark to pull out the break like he did in the last frame. I mean, it's just. Yeah, they're not. I don't think there's something not right with them guys. I don't know why they do it, to be perfectly honest.
Weeks. But I mean, really, for Mark to pull out that clearance, you know, after being hit with what he was hit with by John, you know, keep clearing up, must have took a lot for Mark to clear those up, because he would have knew he would have had to.
Yeah, he's always ever since we were kids, really, he's always kind of had that kind of you know, positive attitude, even if it's a little bit negative. You know, I remember him playing, I think he played Peter Ebden in the final of the Pontins tournament, and he was 3-0 up, and then it finished 3-3 at the break, and he should have probably been 5-1 in front, and you know, he came off, and I'm like, you know, he should have been 5-1 up there, you know, he could have been, you know, all this, and he just looked straight at me and he went, "I'm 3 frames closer to winning this than when I started."
Wow. Yeah. What a great outlook.
And I'm like, I kind of went, "Oh, yeah, right." And then he just went back out in the night and won the first 3 frames and won 6-3. So, you know, it's whereas I might have been like, "Oh, I should have, you know, I could have been in front there, and I could have, I might have, you know." His attitude has always been, he's always had that great thing to sort of, you know, the disappointment of missing that pink where, you know, I nearly fell off my chair, and you know, and he's just gone out and potted an unbelievable red in the middle in the next frame and made a 70 break off it. So it's, you know, that is, you know, Selby is a little bit like that as well. You know, they seem to be able to, whatever bad shots they play, they seem to be able to put that to one side and just get on with the next frame.
And do you think, Lee, that's what really separates the guys right at the top, is that sort of mental approach? They can forget what's happened, and they've got that ability to maybe clear up when they really have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are probably, you know, if you're looking at it, I think they're probably, you know, I could list some names, but you know, they're probably looking at about 10, maybe a couple more players. And to be fair to them, they are exceptional. You know, they are a cut above, you know, the rest of the players. You know, and obviously Mark would be one of those. And but yeah, I mean, you know, you do see even the top players sometimes, if they've missed a shot like that, you know, that you know. But I think generally these days, anyway, even lower down the rankings, you know, everyone seems to be better at that now. You know, I mean, I played the game. I played a game the other day, and I played Liu Haoshan, and he was 4-1 in front and 57 in front in the next frame, and I cleared up with 57 for a respotted black, and then potted the respotted black to go 4-2.
Wow!
Now, 20 years ago, I'd have probably been favourite to win that match after doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and next frame, first chance he got, he rolled in the red in the middle, made 102. You know, so it's, you know, it's kind of like, you know, whereas you think, you know, I've got him now, you know, he'll be gone now.
Yeah.
You do see players go, of course you do, under pressure and different things, but you used to see it a lot more. They are much better at kind of brushing that to one side and kind of just getting on with the next frame.
So have you ever played somebody where you have known that you've got them?
Yeah, probably over the year. Yeah, over the years, I would have done. Yeah, but certainly not so much in the last few years.
No.
Is that some of what you work on with Noel as well, then, Lee? You said that's been quite helpful working with Noel, and obviously he gave us an insight into some of the stuff he does, which sounds like it's quite an all-round package, really. Yeah,
I mean, it was just really good. You know, I mean, I've tried basically everything over the years to try and get the best out of myself. You know, I've tried hypnotists, I've tried everything, sports psychologists, you name it, I've tried it. And he just kind of put it in a way that I could kind of understand it. Some of the things that people have kind of said before, I've kind of like, you know, I can see, you know, I can't see myself doing that, you know, but he does it in a way that's very simple to understand, and I can relate to it. And yeah, I'm coming towards the end of my career now, and I wish I'd tried it many years ago, but you know, it's never too late to learn new things. So yeah, it's really good stuff.
And linked, not quite the same, but I mean, one of the people who wrote in, and I know the other Lee Mack is interested in this point as well, but Graham Poolsley has asked about sight right and whether that kind of almost helped with confidence, kept you playing longer. And Lee, I know you're interested in this point about sight right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, was it when you dropped off the tour, Lee, that you sort of got into the coaching, the sight right coaching, and I think you've met Steve Finney for quite a few years back. It was at 97, but is that when you got into the coaching?
So I can't remember this, but in 1997, I got to the quarterfinal of the World Championship, and I went to the awards due at the end of the year, and apparently he was sat on the same table as me. Or so he tells me. Anyway, I can't, like I said, it was a long time ago, so I can't remember. But I think it was back in 2014, I think it was. I got back on the tour, and I'd had kind of 6 months of playing on the tour, and I'd only won about 2 games, and my head really wasn't in it again. And basically, I was going to see out the end of that season. I was going to have one more season, and then I was calling it a day for sure. Then, you know, I only actually went to play in Q school because I finished #1 in the Welsh rankings and got a free entry into it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have ever gone to the Q school. But I went to see Steve because I was getting more into the court. I wanted to stay involved in snooker, and I went to see Steve Feeney, and basically I wanted to learn sight right to teach myself. And when I was there, he kind of said, "Oh, I met you all these years ago, and why not only do you want to teach it?" He said, "Why wouldn't you want to use it in your game?" So I said, "Well, and at the time, I had absolutely nothing to lose because I couldn't beat anyone. So I said, yeah, well, why not? Let's have a look at it." And I remember the first shot that he put up for me, and where I was lining up for it, and then where he told me to line up for it. And then I played the shot, and honestly, I thought I was going to miss it by 16 inches. And he said, roll the ball. And as I rolled it, he put his finger in the pocket, and the black hit exactly where his finger was in the pocket.
Wow.
And I stood up. I won't tell you the words that I used, but I stood up in amazement, really. It was just, it was amazing. Again, it's something that I had, if I could go back to 1997, I'd have been tapping him on the shoulder and saying, "Come down next week." That's for sure, because it is, I think Steve can sometimes get, a lot of people saying it doesn't work and all this, and it's a gimmick and everything else. It's by far the best coaching method there is out there by a million miles, by an absolute million miles.
And of course, Mark was saying that for quite a while until he got into it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he always used to call it sight wrong, didn't he? Not sight right, sight wrong. So anything to wind anybody up, is that's exactly what he will do. So, but again, I got him into it, and look, at the end of the day, you've still got to have the player behind the cue, because no matter how much you tell anyone or you coach anyone, the player is still the one who's got to go out there and do it. That, and that's. But even Mark will tell you that it did make a hell of a difference to his game. And it is, people, like I said, people who turn around and say it's a gimmick and it's everything else, go and try it, and then tell me what you think. Because
of course, the technical side, if the technical side's working, it's going to just enhance your mental side as well.
Of course, yeah. I mean, there are shots that for years that I thought that I was perfectly lined up on, that now I realize was absolutely nowhere near. And it's not really anybody's fault, because a lot of the books you read will tell you to line up as I was lining it up. But it's kind of, in every sport you kind of they improve. If you look at football 20 years ago to what it is now, the way that everybody trains and eats and their diets and everything else, it's moved on. So why is it kind of with snooker coaching, it seems to be this, oh no, it's got to be done the old, you can't, this new thing is no good. Things move on and things improve, and like I said, it's just the best coaching method there is, bar none. There's no doubt about that.
And of course, Henry's dabbled in it as well, hasn't he? And he's found something in it as well. And my question would be, if Sight Right was around when Henry hung his cue up the first time around, do you think he would have hung his cue up? Or do you think he would have...
I can't really answer that. I mean, he sort of hung his cue up after getting to the the quarterfinals of the world, which is kind of one of the best achievements that I ever did. So it's kind of
as well.
He was all about winning tournaments, wasn't he? If he felt he couldn't win them anymore, he didn't want to be a part of it. So, but yeah, all I can say from my point of view, like you said, if you now think that you are, lined up on a shot, it does give you a lot more confidence that you're actually going to pop that shot, so, the simple, the simple tests that he's got that you would go through with him if you or myself if you did it. You know, it's a board. You know, it can't lie. You know, and it sounds very, very complicated because it's different from what most players do, but actually it's incredibly easy. Incredibly easy. Yeah.
Need to book some lessons.
Book some lessons. I'm available.
I'm going to have to.
book some lessons and film it at least, just so that we can get a running commentary on how it goes.
Michael, I think I'm too far gone, to be honest.
Never too late. You said about old dogs and all the rest of it. It's never too
that's
late.
true.
Never too late. Never too late.
You've still got years on the senior tour yet. You'll be well in.
I'll be in the super seniors shortly.
Seniors. A few people you'll be expecting this, Lee. A few people on Twitter. Gary on Q is one of them. Matt Butler's another one. Asked about your thoughts on the whole notion of timing the shots and shot clocks and average shot times and all the rest of it. So you kind of knew this would come up.
I had a feeling.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had Martin O'Donnell on fairly recently, and he was quite bullish about it, really, defending how he plays and almost saying, well, it's everyone else's problem, not mine. And, you know, and certainly we've got a poll on Twitter at the moment, and so far it's around about 75% who have said, yeah, it's just part of the game, and only 25% saying that there needs to be some kind of penalty or, you know, some way of rushing it along. But actually most people seem to be accepting it. But it does come up as a point, doesn't it, that gets attached sometimes. I just wonder what you think of it.
Yeah, I mean, I can only kind of speak about it from my point of view, really. You know, I mean, you know, it can be accused of like sort of being gamesmanship and doing it to put the other person off, you know, and I kind of, you know, of all, you know, I have seen that done in the past. I'm obviously not going to say any names. I think, you know, there's certain matches where people will know that that's been done. But, you know, I can only speak from my point of view personally. And you know, I'll be perfectly honest with you. It's just confidence. That's all it is, you know. And you get into a match, you want to win so badly, and you try to be absolutely perfect, you know, to try and do everything to not miss that shot, you know. Whereas in practice, if you miss, it sort of doesn't matter that much. So you get down and play the shot. And then it's sort of is this thing as well that it kind of, you know, when you do start to miss a few, then the confidence gets even lower, and then I go even slower.
Yeah.
And you know, it's you know, it actually it will put me off more than my opponent, I'm sure, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, when I'm coaching, I keep telling people, you know, if you get the position that you wanted, play the shot. Don't be looking around. Don't be looking for problems, you know. And that, unfortunately for me, that is kind of one of the things that I've done for a long time. You know, there'll be no problems there, but I'll find one. You know, I'll find one somehow. But you know, it's never done to put the other player off, because you know, if you look at all the best, you know, if you look at all the best scorers in the game, none of them are players that play over 30 seconds a shot. You know, they all, when they're in the balls, they get on with it and they flow. And you know, but unfortunately for me, I just find it very difficult to do that. You know, I can do it in practice to a certain. I mean, even in practice, if I was flowing, I would still be probably 25 seconds a shot, maybe. You know, but I just, you know, it's like I said, it's just confidence. I mean, I did get to the quarterfinal of the English Open 2 seasons ago, I think, and played some really good matches and scored very heavily. Started to get a bit of confidence and kind of had wins. But to be honest, I can understand if some people don't like watching it. I do get that. I can understand that. But you know, same as Martin said, you know, for one player to be 29.9 seconds, it needs to be done about him. I mean, you know, that's a bit silly in my book. But you know, like I said, everyone is different. if I could play like Ronnie or Judd, I'd play like them because you know, it's just I love to watch them as well. You know, same as anyone else. But unfortunately, I can't.
So really, that's just in your makeup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever, you know. I remember Graham Dott saying to me a few years ago. He said, "I don't know what's gone wrong with you." He said, "Because you never used to be that slow." You know, I can't really remember. Maybe I didn't. I mean, we never had kind of shot clocks before and average shot times, you know. But you know, the only thing that I can put it down, I always remember, you know, I used to have coaching off Terry Griffiths, and I always remember Terry telling me, you know, he said when I used to play, he said I would not hit the ball until I was ready to hit that ball. You know, he said, and sometimes it took me a long time to be ready to hit it. You know, so like I said, it's not done to put, it's not, you know, done to put anyone else, to put anyone off, you know, because like I said, you know, if you are gonna, you know, at this level now that the players are so good, when you get a chance, you've got to score. And the longer you take, you know, the less you're gonna, you know, you need to flow when you're in the balls, you know, and you know, the longer taking, looking around and looking for problems, you know, eventually you will find them, you know, and you know, it's something that I've been trying to work on to try and get it, but you know, sometimes I think, oh, that'll be better. You know, I'll be better now, and then I go and look at it. It's 34 seconds again, and I'm like, oh no.
Do you find sort of negative thoughts creeping in the longer you take?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, of course, you know. But like I've got kind of, you know, got a routine of what I do. I try to do it everything like that every shot, which, you know, takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And you know, that's like I said, like Martin is kind of right. You know, I've played Martin before. You know, he's exactly the same. You know, and no, obviously I'm the slowest player on tour. I'm not going to say any different. But you know, Martin can have slow games as well. He's not doing it to put anyone off. You know what I mean? It's just the way he plays, you know. Jack Jones is another one, you know. See Jack sometimes when he's playing and you know, making breaks, he can be down to 24 seconds a shot. And then other times when he's not, he's struggling a little bit. I just watched him the other day and he was playing, he was like 35 seconds a shot. So, you know, he's not, these players, you know, you think that they're doing it on purpose to put players off, and they're not doing it on purpose. It's just, you know, some players are slower than others. And also, you know, sometimes, you know, I can be playing shots and, you know, I'm looking and I'm like, well, I can't see, you know, safety sometimes can't see a shot, yeah. And then I look and then, oh, there it is. And it's it's not too difficult, you know, and it's like, I've just spent a minute thinking that, you know, and there it is. But, you know, Mark Williams would have seen that in 3 or 4 seconds and have already been down playing it by the time the white stopped.
Yeah.
But all players are different, you know, and you know, I think if all players are the same anyway, it would be kind of boring, really, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? You don't want to see something, you know. But yeah, it's certainly it's definitely a confidence thing, you know. If you are confident and you're playing really well and everything's going right, it's much easier to play a little bit freer then. But when you're not, and maybe your results haven't been going well and you're trying to get a win, you know, you want to try and play as close to your practice game as you can. But sometimes when you go out there, it's very, very difficult. Hence the reason probably why I haven't done as well as I probably should have over the years. So
do you think, Lee, obviously you've been on the pro scene for 21 seasons, I think it is, as it stands at the moment. Do you think you've underperformed throughout the years?
No question. Absolutely no question. Yeah. That's definitely. I mean, but then there are sort of, you know, I think if you asked most players, there's not many. I don't think that would kind of say, no, I think I've achieved everything that I could have achieved. You know, there's not many I think would say that.
Because obviously you started off like a train, because the first tournament you qualified for in tour was that 1997 World Championship that you got to the quarterfinals. So I suppose in your mind you'd been looking to kick on from that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that seems like another lifetime ago now, to be perfectly honest. But Yeah, I mean, the first 2 years I had as a professional, I didn't do very well. And then I kind of, third year then did much better, and then ended up getting to the World Championship, and then ended up getting to the quarterfinal. And then the following season, I qualified for it again. And was kind of up until I think about 2000 and sort of late 90s, 1999. I was always going up the rankings, and I got up to about 42, I think, in the world, and was always progressing up, always moving forward. And I kind of had 1 year where I went a little bit backwards, and thought, yeah, I'll try this out now. So I kind of went the other way down the rankings, and unfortunately, from then on, I had one really good year, 2004, I think it was, where I won a lot of matches and played some really good stuff. Got to the Crucible again, got to the last 16. And I think there was only like 7 tournaments, and I got to the last 16 of 3 of them, I think. And that was the old system, so I had to win 5 matches to get the last 16 as well. Yeah. But then 2 years later, I was off the tour. So yeah, it's again, confidence is a great thing. When you're winning, you kind of get in. I remember that year in 2004, I was kind of in a habit. There was everything, that when you say things are happening for you, and you was having the luck, it was some of the things that were happening to me. I remember playing a match in Prestatyn, and I think I'd won about 9 matches on the trot, and I had to play a guy called Nick Dyson.
Mm-hmm.
Very good player. And somebody at the time I'd never beaten him, and he was 4-2 in front, and Ryan Day was in there was about 10 seats in each cubicle, and Ryan Day was in the corner, and Nick potted the last red into the yellow pocket, and all the colours were on his spots, and he was perfect on the blue, and he was 28 points up he potted the red to be 28 up, so I already needed a snooker, and he's perfect on the blue to just pot the blue in the middle, come down for the yellow, and he's 4-2 in front anyway, first to 5. So I bent down and I picked my 2 extensions up off the floor, but I thought, no, what I'll do the right thing. I'll let him clear the table, and then I'll shake his hand, rather, because I want to shake it now.
Mm. Yeah.
And he got down to play the blue and feathered the white.
Wow.
So now I've got my 2 extensions in my hand, and I'm right, okay. And I've come around now to play the yellow, and all I can see in my eye line is Ryan Day laughing his head off. What has just happened? But somehow I managed to clear the colours and managed to win the game 5-4. So it's unbelievable. I know, unbelievable. But when things are not going for you, and you kind of get into a habit of losing, the flip side happens, and sort of, like I said, I went from that year of doing incredibly well and kind of thinking, I'm turning it around a little bit here, and 2 or 3 years later, I was off the tour. Yeah.
Such a fine line.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there are so many good players now, and it is such a fine line, between at this standard that you're playing now, maybe 1 or 2 shots can cost you a best of 9 match. I know that might sound silly, but that is the way it is.
Yeah, so we did get a question about it was somebody calls themselves Mountain Man on Twitter, and he was asking about the 3-cushion break, asking about why people use it, and it kind of links a bit to your point there earlier, Lee, about how sometimes just a couple of mistakes or people getting in can almost finish off a best of 9, because he was kind of making the point that he sees a lot of breaks now where it opens up, leaves a ball on. And obviously, Mark Williams has started doing that break around the back and all the rest of it. I mean, are the break-offs something that you tend to think about?
I mean, probably 10 years ago, probably not so much. But I think now, because, again, the standard is so good, yeah, I think you do now. It sort of, when I won the toss to start the match, I would always break off. Now I always let my opponent break, because it's, if you do, you know, I still break off the same way, trying obviously to kind of hide that end red. But you know, you sort of, if you do leave it, even if you get the white on or tight on the cushion, you know, you're looking at it and you're fancying the guy that you're playing to knock it in, because they just all are such good long potters these days. You know, you can't afford to leave them those shots. So I do understand why Mark, you know, chose to break off like that. Don't really understand why he was getting so much stick for it, to be perfectly honest. You know, he's one of the most attacking, quickest attacking players there is on. It's just one shot, you know, and in sort of 3 shots time, they were back playing normal safeties again. I think it was absolute fuss over absolutely nothing. I mean, we actually got a letter from World Snooker saying, you know, you know, do you think that this is that we should be doing this?
Really?
You know, and it's like, yeah, it's just yeah, I don't understand that. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe cut that bit out. Maybe I'm not supposed to say that.
I think Mark tweeted something about that he got a letter from World Snooker.
I think he put on after O'Sullivan's break off the other day, didn't he? That will we get a letter about this one? You know, I mean, it's just such a fuss over nothing. You know, I mean, if somebody wants to break, somebody can break. People can break off any way they like. You know what I mean? It's if you know, but it was after kind of I know why he did it, because after the match he played against Sean Murphy in the Masters, every time he broke off, Sean Murphy potted a red.
Yeah.
You know, and it didn't matter what kind of red he left him, he potted it every time, and he said, "I'm not having anyone pot any balls off my break again." So
yeah,
they still did, but
yeah. I think Selby did, and he had a 136 or something like that.
Yeah, I think a couple of times he hit it a little bit too hard and left the red in the middle, didn't he?
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who did it. Do you remember the one? Oh God, which tournament was it? I'm not sure if it was the Championship League, but somebody did the Williams. I'm calling it the Williams break now. But they hit the black on the way through. Did you see that one?
Oh, did they?
Never seen.
I think Peter Lyons was in the commentary box and he was wetting himself.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't break like that, just because I'd probably do that. So or miss the pack or something like that. So I'll give that a miss.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? It does seem to be a bit of a traditional, a real, you know, there's almost an angst. If anything against the tradition is suggested or comes in, it does seem to rile people up whether it's in the organizations or even a lot of the fans as well. I mean, certainly we had Neil Robertson on, and it was a great 2-hour-long conversation, and everyone fixated on the fact that he mentioned about difficulties over the Crucible. And I think it's that thing, isn't it? There's an element of, if it's traditional, if it's how it's always been, anything that's different to that kind of upsets the apple cart sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it with the Crucible, but you know, everybody, you know, everybody's entitled to their opinion, aren't they? You know, so you know, but I sometimes I don't see, you know, like things like, you know, the break off was such a, you know, it was such a fuss made about it. And I mean, of course, when there's a fuss made about it, then Mark loves all that because he can just wind people up then. So I mean, that's right up his book, right up his book. So yeah, you just do it even more then. But you know, things like that, I just can't understand why such a fuss is made about it. You know, if it was kind of, he was breaking off like that and each frame was taking 40 minutes, then I understand it. But he was still finishing the frames in 10, 15 minutes. So I just don't understand what all the fuss was about. Not for me.
No, it's a weird one, isn't it? I guess it's more for the opponent as to what shot they play next. If you've just left a white in the bottom of the pack, it's almost, what you're going to do now then if you're not touching ball.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you roll into the pack and Mark then flicks down to the bottom behind the black, you know, you've played 3 shots, and now you're going to be playing normal safeties then, because they're going to put you up the top end. So then it's all going to be back to normal. So yeah, I didn't really see what, for me, no fuss about absolutely nothing, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, so it's almost, it's a bit like well, I don't know if it's the same, but you know, there was we talked almost in the virtual green room about the Ronnie break the other night when he was on his way out, really, but he smashed them open on the break, and people saying either he'd given up or he was taking the mickey or disrespectful, whatever one it was, and he got a red in. But again, it sounds like it's a similar thing in terms of, oh, you know, almost accusations of being disrespectful, or, you know, just not paying the game its dues, or not your opponent the fair dues. But that doesn't sound like that was in his mind. That was just, he was mixing it up a bit, try something different, not being easily caught out.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what he was thinking, really, but you know, it's, you know, sometimes it can actually, like, you know, if I mean, he potted a red off the break, but you know, if he left his opponent in, maybe his opponent scores 20 or 30 and then he wins the frame, and
yeah,
you know, who knows, you can get back into the match sometimes by that, because it can sort of get into your opponent's head. But or maybe he just had enough and he wanted to get out from them.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
More likely, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, it's yeah, but you know, who knows what he was thinking.
And what's your, you know, looking ahead at it's still quite a long season with a few tournaments in, but there's a lot to play. So what's your realistic kind of hopes for this season? Do you have any aspirations or particular targets?
Not really. I just want to try and play as well as I can, win as many games as I can. I think I've got 3 tournaments. Yeah, 3. I've got to play Sunday now, and then the UK, and then the Scottish Open before Christmas. You know, if obviously I would like to stay on the tour. If I did finish with enough money or points or whatever you want to call it, to stay in on the 1-year list, and that would be great, and I could have another 2 years. If I didn't, then I would maybe have to kind of have a look at it to see whether I would want to go to Q school again and go through that again at this moment in time. Whereas for the last few years, I've always said, whatever happens, I'm going to go to Q school. Now I'm not so sure if it would be kind of how I felt at the time, I think. Because I really do now want to get more into the coaching side of things, and I've had a few professional players approaching me about coaching, and kind of didn't really have the time to commit to it with playing myself.
Yeah.
So I'd like to start doing that a little bit as well. So, but yeah, I mean, definitely, I'd like to stay on and have a few more years, and I'm. You know, if I felt that my game was still in good shape and I was still really enjoying it, even though if I did fall off, I'd still go to Q school. But I'd have to make that decision closer to the time now, I think.
Sure. I think we do a feature, Lee, which is it's kind of our closing feature, if you like, and we do this with all the people we have, and especially the players, and we call it clearing the colours. So what we tend to do is we do a little bit of a quick fire. Martin said when he came on, he made light of it, didn't he, Lee? He said, well, I don't do quick fire, so that's not going to happen. But we do it clearing the colours. We go through a question for each colour as we go towards the black. So if you kind of humorous on this one, Lee. So the yellow ball, then, to start us off. This might be an obvious answer. You might come up with a surprise one, but who's the funniest player on tour that you would think, in your opinion?
Funniest player on tour? I would probably have to say Williams, probably, just because he's the one I probably bother with the most, and yeah, he's just non-stop taking the mick out of you all the time. You know, he's just. It's some of it can even be brutal at times. You know, I remember the first time I dropped off the tour. I thought my world had ended. You know, I'd been pro for I don't know, 10, 12 years or whatever it was. Dropped off the tour, where he was practicing with Ryan Day the day after because he was still playing in the World Championship. I was out, and he said, "Oh, come up the club. I'll buy you dinner. I'll buy you lunch." So I went up the club. And his first words to me as I walked in through the door was, "Do you remember this game? You used to play it, didn't you?"
Average.
Just and I'm like, I'm down on the floor as it is, you know. And
Yeah.
so yeah, there's no he's just non-stop. Yeah, but they all in good fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so green ball question, Lee, is your favourite venue away from the Crucible?
Away from the Crucible.
Yeah.
Away from the Crucible. Away from the. I never played at the Masters, so I can't say the Masters because normally people would say that. I'll say the Welsh.
The Welsh.
Yeah.
Perfect. Why not?
Yeah, fantastic. So the green, yellow and green, we're in there. The green wobbled a bit, but we're okay. The brown one. So this is in your opinion, who do you think that the player that I always have difficulties asking this one, Lee. I'm gonna have to reword it. I think the player most likely to win their first world championship. So who do you think the next first-time world champion is?
Kyron Wilson.
Popular answer.
Very popular, yeah. We get Kyron a lot, don't we? Yeah. Probably the most popular one, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, Tricky Blue, Lee. Which actor would you get to play you in a film of your life? It's a tricky blue. This.
I'd love to say Brad Pitt, but
Wouldn't we all?
Oh my God, which actor would I like to play me? I'll pick my favorite actor, Al Pacino. So.
Oh, very good. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
I can't.
Okay, blues dispatched nicely. The pink. So this is a tricky one, really. Is there any interesting personal facts about yourself that we might not know? So we've had examples like, I think Michael Holt, it was the fact he spoke Spanish. And we've had, I think there was a bit of an OCD one from Neil Robertson. He was quite OCD, quite obsessive about different things. Jackson Page, he told us about his fish keeping. That was
right.
I don't know if there's anything we might not know that might be a bit of interest.
When I stopped playing, I don't know if this is of any interest. The only thing I can think of, when I stopped playing for the first time, I was going to be the only thing I had ever had any interest in, apart from snooker, was bookmaking, a bookie. So I've got a bookie's license.
Oh,
I did have. I don't think I have any more. I think it's run out now probably, but sort of about would have been 2009 probably. I had a bookmaker's license. So
wow.
Great.
I would not have guessed that one.
Never. Okay, to clear the table, Lee, black ball question. If you wrote an autobiography, what would you call it?
This is always a killer.
Tricky Black.
If I wrote a autobiography, taking my time.
Oh. I tell you what, you and Martin O'Donnell should go for a pint. He said a test of time, didn't he?
Oh,
yeah.
On the yellow ball question as well, funny player, Gerard Green as well. I put him up there with Mark Williams as well.
All right, we'll put him in the list.
Very, very funny bloke, especially after he's had a couple of pints.
I was looking on Q Tracker, Lee, and I think Gerard Green is your most played opponent.
Is that right?
Yeah. I had a look at that earlier on, and I'm sure it was Gerard. So that's an interesting fact to finish
Yeah,
off.
that's a good one.
Oh wow, wow. I know. He the last time we always have a laugh about the last time we played. He beat me, and that was That was the first time he's beaten me, I think. So we always have a laugh about that. I wouldn't have guessed he was the one I played most of. No, I wouldn't have.
Maybe I've got that wrong, but I'm sure it said Gerard Green. I'll have to recheck
I know
that.
I've played Mark King a few times as well, about 6 or 7, I think. I'm pretty sure. So maybe it is. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, taking my time, and we're quite cheeky with that one, Lee, because the black ball question, we always use that as the almost the title of the episode. So this will go out as the new episode, Lee Walker taking my time. So thank you very much for that. So I mean, I suppose all it leaves us to say is a big thank you, really, for being really good with your time, and you've been great just to set this up, and it's nice to find out more about you. It's one of those where I think me and Lee probably agree that the most enjoyable thing about doing any of this is just getting to know somebody who we've seen from afar and find out more about them as a person, as well as the snooker, and it just gets you closer really to the sport that we're all into, I guess. So just really grateful for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Lee. Very generous with your time, and I wish you well for the rest of the season and also for the rest of your career. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks very much. And anytime you want a lesson, I'll do a special rate.
Perfect. I'll be in touch.
There you go. And if not, you'll be able to go to the bookies with an Al Pacino voice.
Exactly.
And you know who it is.
Yeah.
Luke doesn't know what he's